Welcome to the Criminal Minds Unravelled podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Emily.
And we are so excited to dive into one of Australia's most enduring mysteries with you today. The Somerton Man.
Ooh. Yeah, this one is definitely a good one.
It is a good one. We're going to try to take you through all the twists and turns of this cold case.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's December 1st, 1948.
Okay.
Imagine a peaceful morning on Somerton Beach in Adelaide.
Beautiful.
And suddenly, a man is found dead, lying on the sand, fully clothed, but with no identification. What initially seemed like a simple case quickly spiraled into something much more complex.
Yeah, right away there were red flags.
Like what?
All the labels had been removed.
Oh, wow.
From his clothing.
There was no wallet.
Yeah.
No ID. Nothing to indicate who he was or how he got there.
So it was like he deliberately wanted to erase his identity.
It really seems that way.
It's almost like something out of a spy novel.
Exactly.
Ooh.
And that's one of the theories that we'll be exploring.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's just stick to the facts for a second.
Okay.
Months after the initial discovery, a tiny piece of paper was found tucked into a hidden pocket in the man's trousers.
Okay.
It simply read Tamam Shud, which is Persian for "it is finished" or "the end."
Hey.
And it turns out this scrap was torn from a rare copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, which is a book of Persian poetry. And this book was later found in a car parked nearby.
Okay, so we have a mysterious dead man with a cryptic note linked to a book of poetry.
Sounds about right.
That's where things get really interesting. What was the significance of the Rubaiyat? Was it a suicide note? A message from a secret lover?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Rubaiyat itself deals with themes of life and death and the fleeting nature of time, and actually some scholars believe it was used as a code book during World War I, which has fueled speculation about the Somerton Man's possible involvement in espionage.
Oh, so that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
Adding to the mystery was a suitcase full of seemingly mundane items
Right.
found at a nearby train station linked to the Somerton Man.
Okay.
There's a stenciling brush,
Interesting.
a sharpened table knife,
Huh.
and even some clothing with the name Keen sewn in.
Okay.
It's a bizarre collection of items,
Yeah.
almost like a random assortment of clues.
And what's so fascinating here is the effort to trace that name.
The name Keen.
Keen. Yeah. Despite an exhaustive search, the police couldn't find any missing person matching that name.
Wow.
And the plot thickens when you consider the thread that was used to repair a tear in the man's trousers.
Okay.
It was a rare type,
Okay.
identical to some found in the suitcase, but not readily available in Australia at the time.
So we have a possible international connection.
We do.
But what kind of connection? Could the Somerton Man have been a sailor, a
Yeah.
businessman,
Yeah.
something else entirely?
Yeah,
This is where the investigation really starts to branch out.
it does. And let's not forget the Tamam Shud note itself.
Right.
It was later discovered that the same book of Rubaiyat from which the note was torn also contained a coded message.
What?
5 lines of seemingly random letters carefully penned in the back of the book.
A secret code. Now this is sounding more and more like a spy thriller. Were investigators able to decipher it?
Sadly, no. Code breakers, both professional and amateur, have been trying to crack this code for decades.
Wow.
But the message remains a mystery. Some believe it's a one-time pad cipher,
Ooh.
a type of encryption that's virtually unbreakable without the corresponding key.
Wait, a one-time pad cipher. Can you explain that a bit more for our listeners who might not be familiar with cryptography?
Sure. A one-time pad cipher uses a unique, randomly generated key that's as long as the message itself.
Okay.
This key is used only once and then destroyed,
Wow.
making the code incredibly difficult to break. It's the gold standard for secure communication, often used by spies and military organizations.
So if the Somerton Man was using a one-time pad, it suggests he was involved in something very secretive.
Yeah,
Something with high stakes.
exactly. And that brings us to one of the key figures in this case, Jessica Thompson, a local nurse who was linked to the Somerton Man through a phone number found in the back of the Rubaiyat.
Okay, a mysterious woman enters the picture. What's her connection to all of this?
Initially, Jessica denied knowing the Somerton Man,
Really?
but later admitted to lying to the police.
Oh, wow.
She claimed she had met him briefly,
Okay.
given him her number, but insisted there was nothing more to it.
Her initial denial and later confession certainly raised some eyebrows. What was she hiding? Was she afraid for her safety? Did she know more than she was letting on?
Those are the questions that have plagued investigators for years. Jessica's connection to the Somerton Man has always been shrouded in mystery-fueling speculation about a possible love affair,
Yeah.
a secret rendezvous, or even something more sinister.
This is all so intriguing.
It is.
But before we dive deeper into Jessica's story, I think we need to step back and consider the various theories about the Somerton Man's identity that have emerged over the years. What are some of the most prevalent ones?
Well, as we've touched upon, the spy theory has always been a popular one, especially given the coded message and the possibility of a one-time pad cipher.
Right.
There's also the theory that he was a jilted lover, perhaps seeking solace in the poetry of the Rubaiyat.
Okay.
Some have even speculated that he was involved in organized crime, a victim of a deadly power struggle.
So many possibilities, yet so few concrete answers.
It really is.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
And that's what makes this case so captivating. It's a reminder that even with modern technology and forensic advancements, some mysteries may never be fully solved.
Right.
They challenge us to confront the unknown, to grapple with unanswered questions, and to accept that some secrets may remain hidden forever.
But that doesn't mean we should stop searching for answers.
Okay.
Let's fast forward a few decades to the early 2000s when a researcher named Derek Abbott entered the picture.
Yes.
He brought a fresh perspective to the case, focusing on some unique physical characteristics of the Somerton Man, particularly his ears and teeth. Tell me more about his work.
So Derek Abbott is a professor at the University of Adelaide, and he became obsessed with the Somerton Man case.
I can see why.
And he noticed that the man had a rare combination of ear and dental anomalies,
Okay.
features that are often hereditary.
Yeah.
This led him to focus on finding any potential relatives who might share these traits.
So he was essentially trying to crack the Somerton Man's genetic code. Did he find any promising leads?
Yes, and this is where the story takes another unexpected turn. Abbott discovered a curious connection between the Somerton Man and Robin Thompson, the son of Jessica Thompson.
Wait, Jessica's son. What's the connection there?
So both the Somerton Man and Robin shared that same rare combination of ear and dental anomalies,
Wow.
suggesting a possible familial link. Abbott even went so far as to marry Robin's daughter Rachel,
Oh, wow.
driven by the belief that the Somerton Man was her grandfather.
Wow. Talk about a personal stake in the case. So did DNA testing confirm a direct link between Robin and the Somerton Man?
Unfortunately, no. Initial DNA tests conducted on hair samples didn't support a direct father-son relationship.
Okay.
However, Abbott wasn't deterred.
Of course not.
He believed that further DNA testing, this time on the Somerton Man's skeletal remains, could reveal a more distant familial connection.
So he pushed for exhumation. Did it happen?
Yes. After years of campaigning, the South Australian Attorney General approved the exhumation in 2021.
Wow.
It was a major development in the case, reigniting public interest and fueling hopes for a breakthrough.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
But I'm dying to know what the DNA revealed. Did they finally uncover the Somerton Man's true identity?
Well, let's save that revelation for part 2 of our deep dive.
Oh, come on.
We'll unpack the results of the DNA analysis, explore the latest twists in the case, and delve into the life of the man who may finally have a name after all these years.
You've definitely piqued my curiosity, Emily.
Good.
Listeners, make sure to tune in for part 2 of our deep dive into the Somerton Man mystery, where we'll reveal the findings of the DNA analysis and explore the surprising identity of this enigmatic figure.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Somerton Man mystery.
I am so ready to hear what they found.
All right.
Did the DNA finally reveal who this man was after all these years of speculation?
It did. In 2022, Derek Abbott, along with renowned American genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick, announced they had identified the Somerton Man as Charles Webb,
Carl Webb.
an electrical engineer and instrument maker from Melbourne.
It's strange to finally have a name after all this time. But does simply having a name really solve the mystery?
That is a great question. Sam identifying Carl Webb was just the beginning.
Okay.
It opened up a whole new set of questions about his life, his motivations for traveling to Adelaide, and what ultimately led to his demise.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Eh.
Tell me everything we know about this Carl Webb.
Okay, so records show that Carl Webb was born in 1905 and was married to a woman named Dorothy Robertson. However, they separated in 1947, and no death record was ever found for him.
So could he have been in Adelaide searching for his estranged wife? Maybe he traveled under an assumed name to avoid being found.
It's certainly a possibility. Remember those Keene tags found in the suitcase? Further research revealed that Webb had a sister who was married to a man named Thomas Keene.
So the clothes could have belonged to his brother-in-law. Maybe Webb borrowed them or inherited them after Keene's death.
Exactly. And here's another interesting detail. Thomas Keene had a son who died during World War II. Among his possessions were items suggesting he had lived in the United States.
So that could explain the American-made clothing found on the Somerton Man. It's like pieces of a puzzle are finally starting to fit together. But what about those coded messages in the Rubaiyat? How do they fit into Carl Webb's story?
Yeah, that remains the biggest enigma. If Webb was simply a heartbroken husband searching for his wife, what's with the secret code? Was he dabbling in something he shouldn't have? Was there another side to his life, something he was desperately trying to conceal?
It's frustrating to be so close to an answer, yet still have so many unanswered questions. What about Jessica Thompson? Does knowing Webb's identity shed any light on her connection to the case?
Intriguingly, records show that Webb and Thompson lived very close to each other in the suburb of Glenelg. It's entirely possible their paths crossed, perhaps even romantically.
That would certainly explain her initial reluctance to cooperate with the police. Maybe she was trying to protect Webb's identity or shield herself from public scrutiny.
It's a plausible theory. However, we still don't know the true nature of their relationship or whether Jessica knew anything about the circumstances surrounding Webb's death.
So we have a name, a possible backstory, and some tantalizing clues. But the heart of the mystery remains elusive. What's the latest on the investigation? Are authorities actively pursuing leads related to Carl Webb?
Officially, the South Australian police haven't confirmed Webb's identity as the Somerton Man.
Really?
They're being very cautious, likely wanting to be absolutely certain before making any public statements.
That's understandable given the high-profile nature of the case and then years of speculation. But surely knowing Webb's name must have opened up new avenues of investigation. Have any further details emerged about his life or his final days?
Some interesting details have surfaced. For example, there's evidence suggesting that Webb may have had a history of mental health struggles and even a possible suicide attempt.
So could the Somerton Man's death have been a tragic case of suicide? A man overwhelmed by grief and despair. The Rubaiyat's themes of mortality and acceptance seem to resonate with this theory.
It's certainly a possibility, though we still lack conclusive evidence to support it. Some researchers believe there are inconsistencies in the evidence that point towards foul play.
Like what?
Well, for instance, the position of the body and the lack of signs of struggle are unusual for a typical poisoning suicide. Also, some experts believe the level of sophistication of the potential code in the Rubaiyat suggests a background that wouldn't necessarily align with someone who worked as an electrical engineer.
It sounds like we're back to square one. Even with a name and a potential backstory, we're still grappling with the same fundamental questions. Did Carl Webb commit suicide? Was he murdered? Or was his death the result of some unforeseen accident?
And that's the beauty and frustration of cold cases, especially one as enigmatic as this.
Right.
They force us to question our assumptions, to consider multiple perspectives, and to accept that sometimes the truth may forever remain elusive.
It's fascinating how even with advances in DNA technology and investigative techniques, some mysteries refuse to be neatly solved. What are your thoughts, Emily? What stands out to you as the most perplexing aspect of the Somerton Man case, even after the identification of Carl Webb?
For me, it's the code. Even with a name and a backstory, those enigmatic letters continue to taunt us. They hold the potential to unlock Webb's inner world, his motivations, his fears. Were they a love letter? A gambling scheme? A secret message to someone we haven't even considered?
It's tempting to think that if we could just crack that code, we'd finally have the key to understanding the Somerton Man. It's like having a door to the truth, but lacking the key to open it.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us coming back to these unsolved mysteries. They remind us that there are limits to our understanding, that even in the age of information and technology, there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered.
Well, listeners, we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive. We've explored the identification of Carl Webb, delved into his backstory, and examined the lingering questions that continue to surround this enigmatic case. Join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some of the more intriguing theories, including the possibility of espionage, and discuss what the future holds for the Somerton Man mystery. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the Somerton Man mystery. We've uncovered a name, Carl Charles Webb, and explored a possible backstory. Yet so many questions still linger.
It's true, identifying Carl Webb was a huge step, but it really does feel like we've only just begun to unravel this enigma.
For sure. And in this final part, I want to delve into some of the more intriguing theories surrounding the case, particularly the idea that the Somerton Man might have been involved in espionage. What's your take on this, Emily?
Yeah, the spy theory has really captivated the public imagination for decades, hasn't it?
It has.
The timing of the case, the coded message, the meticulous erasure of his identity, it all seems to fit a Cold War narrative.
It does. But is there any concrete evidence to support this theory?
Well, there's no smoking gun,
Okay.
no direct link to any intelligence agencies.
Okay.
However, there are some intriguing circumstantial details.
Like what?
Remember that Keene connection?
Yeah, the brother-in-law.
Yes. Well, further research into Thomas Keene's son, who died during World War II, revealed something pretty interesting. He was reportedly stationed in the Philippines during the war,
Okay.
a known hub for intelligence activities.
So could there be a connection there? Could the Somerton Man have inherited or acquired something from Keene's son that tied him to the world of espionage?
It's definitely a possibility. And let's not forget the geopolitical climate at the time. Australia was deeply involved in the early years of the Cold War, and Adelaide, with its proximity to sensitive military installations, could have been a prime location for espionage activities.
It's all very cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
But even if Webb was involved in espionage, what was he doing in Adelaide? What was his mission? And why the elaborate efforts to conceal his identity?
Yeah, those are the million-dollar questions. Those are the questions that continue to baffle investigators and researchers alike. Some speculate that he might have been on a mission to deliver or retrieve sensitive information, perhaps meeting with a contact or a handler in Adelaide.
It's like a scene straight out of a John le Carré novel. But what about the coded message? If he was a spy, wouldn't he have used a more sophisticated method of communication? Something that wouldn't leave a physical trail, like a written code?
I mean, perhaps. But it's also possible that the code was a fallback measure, a way to communicate in case his primary means of communication were compromised. Or maybe it was a personal message, unrelated to his espionage activities, something he wanted to keep secret for other reasons.
So many possibilities, yet so few definitive answers. It's tantalizing and frustrating at the same time.
I know. And that's the nature of cold cases, isn't it? Especially those that have captured the public's imagination for so long. They fuel our curiosity, they spark our imaginations, and they challenge us to piece together these fragmented clues in search of a coherent narrative.
Speaking of narratives, I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the other theories that have been proposed over the years.
Okay.
We've touched on the spy theory, the heartbroken husband theory, but there are many others out there.
Right.
What are some of the more intriguing ones?
Well, there's the theory that he was a black marketeer,
Okay.
possibly involved in smuggling goods or currency in the post-war era.
Interesting.
This could explain the need for a secret identity and the coded messages.
Okay. What else?
Some have even speculated that he was a victim of a Cold War experiment,
Really?
perhaps exposed to a new type of poison or a mind control technique.
Now that's a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Perhaps. But it highlights the enduring power of this mystery. It invites speculation. It encourages us to think outside the box, and it forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge.
It's a reminder that even in the age of advanced technology and forensic science, some secrets may remain forever hidden.
Yeah.
But even without definitive answers, I find the Somerton Man case incredibly compelling. It's a story that touches on themes of identity, secrecy, and the fragility of human life.
Absolutely. I agree. And it raises profound questions about our place in the world, the mysteries that surround us, and the enduring allure of the unknown.
Well, Emily, this has been an incredible deep dive into the Somerton Man mystery.
It has.
We've explored the clues, examined the theories, and grappled with the enduring enigma of this case. What do you think the future holds for the Somerton Man? Will we ever know the full truth?
It's hard to say. There is always the possibility that new evidence will surface, perhaps a witness will come forward, or a breakthrough in code-breaking technology will allow us to finally decipher the message in the Rubaiyat. But even if the case remains officially unsolved, I believe the Somerton Man will continue to intrigue and inspire us, reminding us that some stories are destined to remain unfinished, their secrets whispered on the wind.
Beautifully put, Emily. And listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your own theories about this Somerton Man? Do you think we'll ever know the full truth? Share your thoughts with us on social media. And until next time, keep those criminal minds unraveled.